Hello, I'm Ray Cyphers, Hockley County Sheriff, and you are listening to Texas County Voice, a podcast for all 254 counties. Thank you for listening.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Texas County Voice. I'm Jody Siebert with the Texas Association of Counties. In this episode, we visit Llano County to bring you a conversation with County Judge Ron Cunningham. I hope you'll stay with us as Judge Cunningham shares his perspective on key issues facing Llano County and discusses his engagement on two congressional bills that would simplify the federal grant process for counties and boost local support for veterans and their families. Join us for an insightful look at the leadership and experiences that shape Texas counties. Judge Cunningham, thank you for joining Texas County Voice. It's great to be here in Llano.
Well, thank you, and welcome to Llano. We're glad to have you.
Well, how did you get interested in county government?
Well, I grew up here in Llano and joined the Army after high school and then went into DPS, and at the same time, I went into law enforcement. My father became Justice of the Peace here in Llano. He was Justice of the Peace for 26 years. And county government is just, it's a crucial component for the counties, and I felt like I had a role to play in it.
Well, what inspired you to run for county judge?
I had a lot of experience in federal contracting. When I retired from DPS, I started federal contracting and working in that field and in emergency management. And I knew those were two of the crucial components of county government, being emergency management and actually overseeing the administrative part of the county. And with that experience, I felt I was a good fit.
What are some of the top issues for Llano County, and what are your priorities as judge?
Well, for us, I think one of our biggest issues right now is going to be the water. A lot of the rural ranches that when I was growing up were huge ranches have now been subdivided and then sometimes subdivided on top of that. And that's more and more people coming to Llano County and coming to the hill country in general. And you know, you can't divide 100 acres into 10-acre tracts and then expect everybody to be able to drill a well and get water. So water's always an issue like that. And then the surface water that we have for Llano County is also an issue. And it's been an ongoing issue forever since they built Lake Buchanan. You know, it's full for a short period of time and then it starts dropping, and then it'll hit a record low and we're in a drought, and you have to go for a longer duration than you ever expected to get that replenishment.
I assume Llano County, like most counties in Central Texas in the hill country, has seen a lot of growth over the past 10, 15 years.
We've seen a substantial amount of growth. You know, COVID actually pushed more people into Llano County. There was good and bad with COVID, and I think one of the good was people realized that they could work remote a lot more than people thought they could. And with that, they realized that they could live in a rural setting versus an urban setting. And for small families and things of that nature, some of them really find that appealing, and that's what draws a lot of them to it.
So are you seeing a lot of people from Austin, San Antonio, maybe even Houston moving here?
Yeah, we're even seeing them from out of state move here. It's one of those things that when you come into Llano County on a weekend, it's a sleepy little town, and it's inviting. I mean, it's a good culture to be in.
Well, Llano has been known for some of its tourism, deer hunting and sporting activities. I assume that's still the case.
That's a big part of the economic growth in Llano is the hunting. Going back to when I was younger, the ranches had all whitetail hunting. And now there are a lot of ranches in Llano County that are high fence ranches with exotics. And it draws a large number of people out here just to experience the hunting of the exotic animals.
Well, and you're not that far away from Enchanted Rock, what, about 15, 20 miles?
Mm-hmm. It's about 15, 20 miles. The Enchanted Rock is actually, the rock itself is actually in Llano County. And we've got quite a few visitors that come out there for that and experience that.
Yeah, it had slipped my mind that Enchanted Rock is actually in Llano County. Yeah. Sorry about that. I apologize.
No, Gillespie County claims it because the entrance is there, but it's and we respond. Our EMS responds a lot to Enchanted Rock for accidents and incidents of that nature.
Well, let's back up just a bit. When were you elected county judge?
Elected in 2018, took office in 2019.
So you're in your second term?
Yes, sir. Second term.
What are some specific policies or actions that Llano County has taken to address like the water issues and other issues that are on your plate?
Well, I and my predecessors all worked closely with LCRA, and that's one of the crucial things for not so much Llano, because Llano gets their water from, the city of Llano gets their water from the Llano River here, but as you go further downstream, it's all dependent upon the water that comes from Lake Buchanan. And that's one of the things that we have to do is work with LCRA and our state legislature, not only on retaining the water rights, but retaining and maintaining the quality of the water that we have.
Do a lot of people out in the unincorporated areas get their water from wells?
Yes, they do. A lot of them do. Those along the river probably get a good portion of their water for irrigation and everything from the river. But for the most part, the drinking water in Llano County is obtained from wells. You know, and I'll just touch on it real quick, but last year during the summer, the water stopped running almost completely from the dam going downstream here in the city of Llano. So it can get very concerning, and when you start being able to count on 2 digits on how much water you have left, 2-digit days, it's concerning sometimes.
What advice would you offer your peers in county government to meet some of the challenges that you're seeing?
I think the biggest thing is collaboration amongst each other. And that's not only collaboration within your own county government, but with your surrounding county governments. You know, for me, for example, we've got good relationships with the surrounding counties and even further out, other counties. It's always a good opportunity to talk to people, learn what they've had lessons learned, and pass those on to each other.
Well, Judge, we met in February at NACO's legislative conference when you visited the office of your representative, August Pfluger. And one bill that you discussed with Representative Pfluger's office was the Streamlining Federal Grants Act. And the bill, as I understand it, would standardize rules across the federal government for grant applications. What makes this bill important to Llano County specifically and Texas counties in general? And why was it a specific issue that you brought up when we visited Representative Pfluger's office?
Well, one of the challenges that nonprofits and rural counties and rural cities have is to pursue grants and to be competitive in the pursuit of those grants. You have to have someone that is constantly tracking those opportunities. You've got to have someone that knows if you qualify for the opportunity and not only that you can win a grant, but then you have to maintain the grant by complying with the regulations that come out with that grant. And you know, if you look at they'll say, well, all of the instructions are in 2 CFR, contracting federal regulations. I don't know if you've ever looked at the contracting federal regulations, but it takes someone doing that on a full-time basis to fully understand and apply all of those regulations. And nonprofits and a lot of smaller rural cities and counties, they don't have that strength or that bandwidth to do that. So this bill will create the opportunity for the government to come in and streamline a lot of those opportunities, shorten what the qualifications are, condense the instructions or the qualifications so that counties can look at it and say, yes, that's something we want to apply for, or no, that's not something that we would benefit from or could comply with. And it makes it a lot easier for us to go after that stuff. And I will add that if it wasn't for TAG, you know, working with us on this to track opportunities like that and keep up with regulations in not only the federal government but the state government, counties couldn't do it.
Yeah, we have a grant opportunities webpage on our website, county.org, that we maintain, keep up to date.
And that's a resource that I use, and a lot of other county judges that I know, we all use it, and we discuss those opportunities when y'all post that stuff.
Does Llano County have a grants administrator?
We do. We hired one last year, and we are pursuing grants. We've got a couple of grants that are in the works right now. We're waiting on notification. But it's something, and it goes back to what I said a while ago, is, it's one thing to win a grant, but it's another thing to comply with the grant requirements and maintain all of the records and everything. So when you want to apply for another grant, you could qualify. Because the last thing you want to do is be disqualified from an opportunity or have to pay the money back in a clawback procedure on one of those grants.
Before you hired a grants administrator, were you the point person on grants?
I was the point person, and a lot of times for like the law enforcement grants, the chief deputy is the point person. And it's one of those things that, a lot of the grants come from the state, but there are other grants through the federal agencies that we can apply for. But again, if you don't have a full-time grant administrator, and some of the larger counties and some of the larger cities, they have grants administration offices with staff. And we can't, it's very difficult to compete with that.
Yeah, I can imagine it was difficult to keep track of, to do on top of your duties as county judge.
It was a challenge. We're more successful. We're getting more successful every year now.
Well, another bill that you brought up when we visited Representative Pfluger's office was HR 984, which addresses veteran support and outreach. You want to talk about that one a little bit?
Yes, that one, for us, I'm a Army veteran, and for Llano County, it's important. About 1/10 of our population is veterans, and some of those veterans are very successful, while some of those other veterans are, struggling with either injuries or illness that they received while they were in the military, or mental illness, and dealing with issues that are a combination of all of those. And we've only got one veteran county resource officer, and it's sometimes overwhelming for him to try to keep up with everything. And they're working through the VA, and the VA sometimes can be cumbersome. So if this bill would pass, it would help the veterans in the rural counties and the tribal areas as well.
What would it offer them?
More resources, more positions to process the claims and help process the claims easier.
Does Llano County have a veterans court?
We do not.
Is it something that you've considered?
Yeah, we've considered it, but if we were to do it, we would probably try to do something on a more regional basis. We've got the 424th and the 33rd judicial districts here, and that's San Saba, Blanco, Burnett, and Llano. And so if we were to try to do something like that, I would try to push it or promote it, that it would be a regional court for us, not just a county court.
I assume Llano is an attractive location for veterans who are retired, or they've completed their service, and that they were based at one point at Fort Cavazos. Is that?
Yes, that's correct. They were,
Which is not that far.
No, an hour and a half, and the same thing with San Antonio with the Air Force. We've got a lot of Air Force and Army base there, and so a lot of them come here for recreation before they retire, and then they fall in love with Llano County, and they move to Llano County. Going back to the grants, we don't have the grant writing teams and everything, and the federal dollars and the state dollars that are available are just as important to the people that live in Llano County on a dirt road as they are to someone that lives in Austin. I mean, it's important to all of us, and we need to be able to have access to those, and that's why that House resolution is so important.
And that House resolution is 5934.
Yes.
Is there any movement on that bill?
No, not right now.
Any anticipation that it will move, or are we going to have to wait for a new Congress?
I hope it's not going to be a new Congress, but it's just one of those things where it's got bipartisan support, but it's only got 4, in Arthur, and 3 sponsors right now. It's 2 and 2, and so we just have to wait and see. I think the veterans bill, it's gaining traction.
And by new Congress, I was just thinking with the elections just a few months away, that once everyone gets into campaign mode, that pretty much just puts everything to a stop.
Yes, yeah. So they're both important. We'll get through it either way. We've got a great team here in Llano, and we'll just keep plugging.
What role does community engagement play in your success as county judge, or in Llano County's success in implementing policies? And how do you encourage participation in local government?
The majority of the communication and engagement that we have is done through either a town hall type meeting or going to talking to church groups, civic groups, nonprofits, anything like that. And it's just it's not just me, it's all of the elected officials need to be active in that, and most of them are. And that's one of the things where we recognize that. That's something that the Emergency Management Office also looks at and works on. It's, for example, the CERT teams that we have in Llano County, the response teams that go out during disasters, we've got one in each precinct. And it's crucial for them to be trained and ready to go when we have a disaster or have something that requires their help.
Llano County had some, speaking of disasters, some bad flooding a few years ago. Were you county judge at that time?
I was not. I actually inherited that. The flood was in October of 2018, and I took office in 2019. We spent I think we spent $2.3 million in response and recovery efforts, and we recovered $1.8 million from FEMA, which I thought was a pretty good ratio, but it was a challenge.
How have you dedicated your American Rescue Plan funds? How much did you receive, by the way?
Right at $4 million, just a little over $4 million, and we're using a good chunk of that for broadband efforts, and then we're using some for rebuilding portions of the county. For example, when I took office, we had really 1.5 EMS units, ambulances in Llano County. We've got and this goes back to partnerships, we've got a partnership with Hamilton County for their EMS service. And now we've got 4 ambulances in Llano County, strategically placed. We've used some of those funds to build EMS stations, and we're in the process of doing that right now, building a new EMS station over by the hospital, another one on the north side of the bridge in Llano, and another one in Kingsland. So we're putting it to good use.
What do you do when you're not at work? Do you have any special hobbies?
If it's outdoors, I like doing it. If it's hunting, fishing, you name it, I really enjoy fishing, saltwater fishing especially. And if there's an opportunity to get to the coast and wet a hook, we're going to do it.
Well, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, I appreciate you coming out, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Texas County Voice. And a special thank you to Llano County Judge Ron Cunningham for joining the show. Check out our show page on county.org for more information about H.R. 984, the Commitment to Veteran Support and Outreach Act, and H.R. 5934, the Streamlining Federal Grants Act. Please subscribe to Texas County Voice for more stories about Texas and for conversations with local leaders making a difference in Texas counties. To learn more about Texas counties and the Texas Association of Counties, please visit county.org. We'll see you next time.